welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Justin Frederick and Ryan Gerdes. And we are in studio. If you are a long-time listener of this podcast, question number one, what is wrong with you? But we do appreciate it. You will hear us, and you've heard my son, my eldest son, Quentin, we call him Q, used to work the board and our engineer and our producer and all that kind of good stuff. He's in studio with us back from college, and going back and temporarily back from college on his break. Now, I always tell people, guys, your kids will let you know how much they love you or how much they don't love you by how close they go to college from you or how far. So, Ryan, your daughter, ASU.
Loves him.
Well, yeah. Justin's kids aren't old enough for college yet.
Got some time.
And so my son, Quentin, decided he wanted to go to college in Tokyo, Japan.
Hates you.
So Quentin,
you're the worst, Mike.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
What did I do wrong?
Smart move, Q.
Tells you about what kind of father you were.
What did I do wrong?
Oh, where do I even start?
Your book is over there with all this stuff in it.
All right, so what's the real estate market like in Tokyo?
I mean, all I know is that it's cheaper. Like, the U.S. dollar goes really far.
All right, so what's it like over there?
Like, how many yen to $1? I could look it up, but...
Well, I could tell you 10 U.S. dollars is around, like, 650, 700 yen.
Okay.
I think in terms of, like, 10 usually.
Okay.
All right, so for those who have never been to Tokyo, and you are going to Temple University has got a English-speaking international business campus in Tokyo, and now they're opening one up in Kyoto, which you're going to next semester. But what's Japan? Everybody asks me all the time, why did your son pick Japan? Like, what happened?
All right, so I always thought the topic of international business could be cool.
That's my son right there, boys.
Well, I like traveling and I like, money. Because, who doesn't? But the business side of things. And, I had a cousin who did a semester. Actually, two cousins who did semesters out in, like, Europe and cool places. So I just thought, like, it could be cool to, go somewhere else. And... I had recently done a trip to Japan with my mother, and I really liked it out there. So just, thought, why not? Heard about the campus from my high school college advisor at the time, and applied and got in, and went from there, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah.
Didn't have anything to do with you.
Yeah, nothing to do with me. So what was your favorite, like what's your favorite parts of being there? What's Japan like, or what's Tokyo like for those listeners that have never been there?
Very busy. Like, if you want to get
Congested?
anywhere.
All I hear
Some
about
parts,
is
yeah.
Pollution. That's all I always hear about. Between China and Japan, the pollution is just...
Well,
awful.
one is substantially higher than the other.
Right.
I mean, that wasn't something I noticed, but it's definitely very, like, hustle and bustle. If you want to get, like, anywhere, you're going to be on the subway, the trains for, like, 20, 30, even sometimes 40 minutes. And, you just got to be good with, go, go, go.
I'm going to ask your dad question. What's a myth? Bust a myth that a bunch of Americans that have never been to Japan think that they're walking into, but it's just not so.
A lot of people think that there's not a lot of English spoken in Tokyo, and it, like, couldn't be more opposite. Like, I guess as the later generations continue, more and more Japanese people are taught English, even in, like, school. So definitely a lot of English. Feels comfortable.
Well, the one thing that struck me is I think most people assume when you go to Tokyo, your only options are sushi and sushi.
That's
Not the case.
I'm game.
They got McDonald's there?
Yeah. I mean, they have Shake Shack, and that was one of my favorites here. So when I saw that, I was like,
I'm at home.
I can live here.
There's like KFC, there's like Popeyes. Yeah, there's like everything.
I know you're sounding too
of.
much like your dad.
Yeah.
and what's our favorite burger place there?
Well, there's this place I found. It's like Wagyu beef burger. It's called Shogun Burger. It's pretty legit.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's good.
Cool.
Yeah. So going back to Tokyo now you're going to be going to Kyoto. What's it like going to school there and going to college there? Somebody who might be listening to the podcast thinking about going there and or has kids that, hey, this sounds like a great option. I think the thing that struck me, it's not like going to a normal university campus like a USC or ASU where there's a football stadium and a baseball stadium and
So I'll say one thing about just like any university out there, because there are other options. I'll say a couple about Temple. For any of them, just be prepared to like commute. You know, the dorms most of the time aren't living on campus. So for me, it was like a 45, 50-minute extra, just, you know, leaving my dorm, getting to campus. But it was kind of nice because...
That's a long commute.
Yeah, forced me to wake up early, you know, good habits, more of a structure. But as far as Temple, one thing...
I had a hard time going to class. I had a 5-minute walk. To
Right.
Dude.
So,
Shit.
yeah.
I think that's actually harder. It's not like a job. I got to roll out of bed and go to class.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
to get out of bed. I'm going to do is hit the snooze and hit the snooze. When you got to hit a train, I think it's different.
Everybody went to the 9 o'clock class in like slippers and pajama pants.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how college was for me.
I'd say one thing about Temple specifically that I guess, you know, something to like at least consider is they don't really have like meal plans or anything. So you kind of on your own for every meal. But the other side of it though is like a meal. You can get that like $3 or $4 US each.
Wow.
So, you know.
And guys,
So Taco Bell, you could eat a feast for $4.
They do have Taco Bell, yes.
and they don't have gratuities there.
Yeah, no tipping.
I mean, like if you even try to tip your server, they will not accept it.
Yeah.
So when I went with him last time I was out with him, or at some point, I added it up, and I'm like, I think I saved like $700 to $800 just in gratuities.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's
That's
nice.
cool.
Well, so I had the honor of taking you out to lunch a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, yes.
And we had a lot of really good conversations. And so one of the things that I was most intrigued by was a lot of the customs and the culture. So what's your favorite customer culture over there in Japan that you just like? All right, dude, Americans should do more of this.
Okay, so it's really subtle. Like, I don't think I would have noticed it for a long time, but like, anytime you're handed something, you always just accept it with both hands, whether it's like a receipt, even like your meal tray or anything. And
You
it,
never told me about that, and I've been insulting everybody.
yeah,
You always insult them.
Not that you would care anyhow, dude.
you don't need to be in Japan to do that.
Nailed it.
But I just think, you know, like, just even something as subtle as that, it just shows more like care and like authenticity. Respect.
Yeah.
That's a very big thing too. So definitely that. Very subtle, but it's just like subtle things like that are kind of like, you know, like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.
And there's definitely things, you know, like we do right too, you know, not to say one's better than the other.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
ultimately, if we could just like all take the good and leave the
Yeah.
bad, then you know we'd have a perfect
Yeah.
world. But that's not what.
No.
That's not reality. But
Nope.
that's just a cool tradition.
Yeah.
Well, you've spent a couple years with us on the other side of the table, and obviously hearing us talk about real estate, investing, and you and I have had one of my favorite moments with my son was when we were a couple years ago. We were in Waikiki.
Do remember that? Yeah.
You know, because we were doing 75 hard, and it was like, oh crap, got to go for another. But if you're gonna have to do a 45-minute walk, Waikiki is not a bad
Not a bad
option.
spot.
Nope.
And so that was like the first time, like we just had like a really in-depth conversation about real estate, investing in real estate, what, you know, Ryan and I and Justin do, you know, outside of the normal real estate services, the service and the guidance that we provide our clients. And then you and I now are mutually invested in Bitcoin together and
Crypto,
and
yeah.
crypto and things like that. How has being overseas kind of, I don't know, influenced, changed your approach to investing? Because you do have you're 19 now. You do have this big priority, you know, in your personal agenda to make money, to invest, and to build wealth. I know there wasn't really a question there, but
No, yeah. I mean, I'd say, I guess that could answer that. And I guess there's like other things is, once I left here, it's kind of like I'm outside of my bubble. There's like a whole world out there, and I've like just heard of a lot of like people, some of the rich people out there, like they own stuff everywhere, whether it's like different stocks in other countries, like economies, just different stuff. I guess the short answer is just, you're outside your bubble and there's like more options, if that makes sense.
yeah, there's money to be made everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, any other questions for him as we get into our Friday theme here?
No, buddy. That's good stuff.
All right, so Quentin, it is Friday, and as customary, the three of us take turns and go, okay, it's Friday. If you were going to take somebody to your favorite, beer place or whatever.
Yeah.
But for
yeah,
you,
what's your favorite beer place, Q?
with Dad?
My dad's right here.
What do you want to know from us? What do you want to know as far as our favorite of what?
Okay. I guess we'll like keep it on topic as like, international traveling. So I guess let's say, what's your guys' favorite place you've ever traveled to?
That's a good
And
one.
it could be made up of like a bunch of different reasons, but it's like all around like coolest place you've been.
Who goes first?
Oh,
Justin.
yeah.
I'll go first. Yeah. Well, mine's not that cool because it's not international, but
Doesn't have to be.
Have you ever
Yeah.
been outside of the country?
I have.
Okay.
I've been to the Caribbean, Bahamas, Canada,
Yeah.
but
Which
I've never
is- which
been.
is soon
I've
to
never
become
been
part of the United States.
I've never been across the Atlantic.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to Hawaii, but I think the coolest place I've ever been to is Yellowstone Park, and
Good one.
I just absolutely love that place. And I think the best part for me was I just didn't anticipate it. I never expected what I saw. It was very majestic. So loved it. Can't wait to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Ryan?
All right. So when I was in college, my girlfriend, then wife now, backpacked Europe, and she has family in Ireland and all over Ireland. And so we did Dublin and did some of the touristy stuff, but I don't even know exactly how she's related. It's like her mom's aunt or something like that lives in this town called Roscommon in County Castlereagh. And it's this small little village in like north central-ish Ireland. And we took this, whatever Peugeot, small little coupe and went on this, dirt road for 50 miles where we had to like, dodge, sheep and, people. It was like, so the journey was amazing just getting there. And then once you get into the town, they owned a sheep farm. And so like we stayed on their farm and it was so badass. And you go into town and they have the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, and, and all that fun stuff. And they have an inn and then they have one pub. And so of course, I had to go visit the pub and, the local town.
Your picture is still up on the wall.
Yeah. I'm walking
Wanted.
like this, and I'm only 6 foot. And all. I think at the time I was 6'1". I'm over there walking like this because they got like super short ceilings, and like I think like the newest building was built in 1725. And so I get to watch it and sit there and watch the priest play the spoons while another one's playing the fiddle, and another one's clogging around, and we're drinking Guinness, and I can't understand a freaking word anyone's saying, but it was just like the merriest, like most beautiful, like just out of body experience.
Like what you would expect in a movie, right?
It was straight out of a movie, like
Yeah.
far and away type of shit. You know what I mean? Like it was.
They have a bunch of dags.
Oh yeah, but dags, dags. I like caravans more. Went and saw a hurling match, which I didn't even know what the
That's
hell
cool.
hurling was,
Yeah.
and so that was my favorite international trip or
Cool.
location.
All right, so before we do that, I do want to give an opportunity for our listeners to become part of our story, especially if you just want to have a conversation about this building wealth aspect as far as how to use real estate to do it. I love having these conversations with my son. If you have a child or a grandchild that you're like, I would just love for somebody to sit down with them and have a talk about real estate, have a talk about building wealth, we would love to do that as well. All you got to do is text STORY to 623 AZ Recon. That's STORY to 623 AZ Recon. My favorite place, for a variety of reasons, was when my dad was alive. He had some crazy license through OFAC, which is an agency in the United States government that actually allowed him to take travel baseball teams and softball teams down to Cuba. And completely legal. It was under this people-to-people interaction, whatever the case is. And so I got to do it a couple times. So one, that's the element of just a great memory of just being with my dad. But it's one of my favorite places that I've ever been to because very few people can say that they've ever been to Cuba, will ever have that opportunity. Quentin got an opportunity to go to Cuba. Unfortunately, he didn't make his way to Havana. The people there, and keep in mind, this is probably 20 years ago, the people were the most beautiful people that you'll ever come across. They, despite whatever weird relationship that Castro had with the United States, the people loved Americans. And and I remember one time I went, and I forgot which one, but it was during one of the presidential elections. Like, I'm in this hotel room in Havana watching the results come in. All they wanted to talk about was America, and all they wanted to talk about the politics. But the best rum is down there, the Havana Club 5-year rum. But my favorite part of being down there is we used to go down to the cigar factory. And so keep in mind, it's 92 degrees, it's humid as hell. And back then, okay, I'm afraid to say it because you guys are going to freaking give me a hard time, but, I had the members only jacket, right?
Jesus.
Shut your mouth, dude. With the inside pockets. And I'd have a fan. Anything that had a big pocket that I could stick cigars in, you were taking with you, because as you were taking a tour of the factories, they would be like literally selling you the sticks that they just rolled. Some of them didn't even have labels on them, but it's right off the rolling table for $1 a piece, man.
So you are a Cuban cigar smuggler.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did smuggle them back through customs. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
Okay, can you look up the statute of limitations on that, bro? So that's my favorite place. Havana, Cuba. All right, Quentin, we counted them, 19 countries up till now.
18.
18. What's your favorite country that you've visited?
Okay, well, I guess besides Japan, I really liked Thailand. That was cool.
That's my son.
Yeah. It was a good time in Thailand.
You went to Phuket, right?
In Bangkok, yeah.
Bangkok, yeah. All right, well, that wraps it up for us. Again, if you'd like to have a conversation with us about building wealth in real estate, and really, we love chatting with our listeners, sons and daughters and grandchildren, about building wealth in real estate. We'd love to do that. All you got to do is text the word STORY to 623-AZ-RECON. That's STORY to 623-AZ-RECON.